Welcome to the culinary scene. My name is Chef Mike from Minnesota, and today we're excited to bring you the first of our two-part Thanksgiving series. Today, me and a couple of our chef team from Roth are going to do traditional sides and a dessert. I'm joined by Chef Ed and Chef Gil, and the three of us are going to kind of just entertain you for the next couple of 20 or 40 minutes or so. A couple of pieces of housekeeping. You do have a description screen there. It has some links. We'll talk about those links. There's three things there. We'll specifically reference them. One of them is recipes, and one of them is an invitation to join the culinary scene as an ownership resource. But if you want to enter questions, we're going to be here to do this in a live interactive session. Know if you need to get to the chat section, you may have to create an account with YouTube. Just put your email address in there. And then we're going to collect those questions. We are going to hold them until we're done talking about our recipes, and then we'll address everything you have at that point. Tomorrow's session is all about the bird. So if you're interested in those kind of topics, they will be covered tomorrow, and that's what the second link in your description page is. With no further ado, Chef Ed.
So I'm Chef Ed from St. Louis, and today we're going to be doing a little bit, so he was talking about the recipes that we have on the links. So we have some mashed potatoes. I did a mashed potato recipe last year. So if you just want to do traditional mashed potatoes, it has a russet potato. It's real nice, and it's got just a cream and butter. I really see those russet potatoes that I use. You'll see a lot of people using Yukon, but I'll use those russets because I feel like they really soak up a lot of that cream and butter and give you a lot of flavor. So there's a recipe for that underneath. But right here, what I have going is some crispy red potatoes on the griddle. So I love using the Wolf infrared griddle here where you can get them nice and crispy. So what I do is I'll either boil, or if you have a steam oven, you can go ahead and put it in your steam oven for about 45 minutes, depending on the size of your potatoes. These are a little bit larger red potatoes, but some smaller ones, you can do a little bit less on the steam or the boil. Once that's done, I'll cool them off. And you'll see I have a potato right here. It's just done and cooled off. I'll give it a little smash with my hand. Put it on the griddle, and then I like to use, especially if you got a smaller one, a nice cup, kind of push them down and get them crispy. If they break apart a little bit, we're going to get some cheese on them, so it's not really going to matter. So I've had these going, just kind of try to speed it up. I've had them going for about 6 minutes. I have the griddle turned on. I turn them on a little bit lower, and then I'll really crank it up and get it nice and crispy. So if we go ahead and flip these over, you'll see they're going to get crispy on all sides.
That looks beautiful, Chef.
And what a good thing with the griddle is, you're going to get crispy all over. You're not going to have to worry about one side being, it's just real even, especially if you got this double griddle with this nice big surface area. You can do both sides. Now, I did cook some bacon ahead of time. I went ahead and put my bacon on here, a cold griddle, kind of slowly turned it up, got it nice and crispy, and then I went ahead and cut it. So I got that bacon fat on the griddle. It's going to give a nice flavor to these potatoes. I mean, what can you go wrong? This is basically like a twice-baked potato, but you're doing it on the griddle. It's going to get nice and crispy. It's kind of got all those things in it. So once I get these flipped over, what I like to do is I'll go ahead and add some cheddar cheese onto it.
Any cheese, but cheddar looks right.
Yeah, I mean,
description. Yeah.
Any cheese will work. You can get some Swiss. You could put some a mix, pepper jack if you like a little bit spicier. Sure. Now this is going to take a couple minutes for it to get nice and crispy on the other side. It'll allow this for the cheese to melt. And then we're going to go with a little bacon and a little sour cream, a little chive to finish it up. But while this is getting crispy, I'm going to talk about the other dish that I had today.
Awesome.
So I made a orange cranberry bread. So this is, we talked about desserts. You can use this as a dessert after a dinner, or it's great left over the next morning for kind of like a breakfast bread as well.
I love it with my coffee.
Coffee, cranberry, orange, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's going to work for both. One of the cool things I did here with this recipe is I used the speed oven. So in the speed oven, I used the convection mode. So it's working like a regular convection oven. And we're going to go ahead and take one out. I have some right up here, but I have one that I just finished about 10 minutes ago here. And so you got a nice brown top. This will go ahead and pop out, and you'll have a nice orange cranberry bread. Like I said, you're going to want to cook this. It's going to take 40 minutes to cook. Now, depending on your pan. So I got a nice pan. If you get a little bit larger, because you could did a little bit more in here. If it's a little bit thinner, it might not take as long. Depending on what size pan you use, is going to depend on how long that's going to cook. One good way to measure if it's done is go ahead and take a toothpick or one of them skewers, put it in there. If it comes out dry, you're going to know that's about there. So it's a great bread that you can do, for, like I said, for breakfast or for a dessert. I don't have it in the recipe, but if you made a little bit of powdered sugar and milk, made a little icing on there, you could really make it a little bit sweeter for a dessert as well.
And the cranberry orange flavor is right on point for this time of year.
Absolutely.
What everybody wants to taste.
I have cranberries in there, but another way that I used to make this bread is what I would do after Thanksgiving. I would take my cranberry relish, strain it out. Instead of using frozen cranberries or fresh cranberries, I'd go ahead and take that relish and add it in instead. It'll make it more of a red bread, but that's a good way to use that leftover cranberry relish. It's kind of, if you got it, why not use it? You're kind of just put it in there. You can modify this, add some nuts in there if you want a little bit crunchy, but it's a nice basic recipe to use in your speed oven. And you can modify this by putting it in a steam oven or a regular E or M series oven. I would drop the temperature to 375 though. It just helps out a little bit because you got larger heating elements in those regular ovens. It's going to get, that temperature is going to be a little bit quicker. So just drop that temperature a little bit, same time roughly, and you'll be good to go. So now you can see our cheese is starting to melt here. Our bacon's on there. You basically got these nice, crispy. If you got smaller ones, you might want to do 2 per person. But with these large ones, you can do this, just put them on a platter. They can pick up 1 per person and have a nice, almost twice baked potato.
It's awesome.
Make sure you save all those crispy
Yeah, those
bits.
cheese
Those
crispies
Chef
are,
Mike
oh
and I's
man,
favorite.
they're snacks. They were looking awesome.
So we'll just put them all on here. And then we'll take these crispy bits. I like to scrape them off. You can kind of chop them up a little bit.
Nothing wrong with those.
Put them right on top.
That was a nice cheese pull, Chef.
So then we're going to finish it up with a little bit of some sour cream. You can do this on the platter, or if you're plating them, go ahead and put them on the plate. Just a little sour cream on each. Really gives it a nice finish, gives it that creaminess of the twice baked potato. You got the crispiness of the bacon, cheese, crispiness of that potato. I did salt and pepper these potatoes before.
That was a question I had. Did you season them before?
I did season them, a little bit of salt and pepper on top. That'll just kind of help out there. And then I like to do a little bit of chives on top. Chives, green onions. Sometimes it's hard to find chives in the grocery store, especially this time of year. But usually green onions or scallions are almost always available. So you could use that as well. Now I do want to show you a little bit. So I'll just take this off here. Get rid of this. Go right down in our trough here. That was that extra one. Just go ahead and scrape. If you don't have one of these bench scrapers, I really recommend it. It's easy to get. You can get them at most baking pastry shops. You can get them online. It's just a bench scraper, metal bench scraper. Helps you with your griddle. Instead of trying to use your spatula here, it makes it nice and easy.
Very inexpensive for sure.
Very
Best
inexpensive.
tool for cleaning that griddle, hands down.
And a lot of times, this one's dirty right now. I'll kind of wipe it off, but they can slide right in here. And once they're clean, it's always available to grab. So
slick.
it's a nice little easy thing. You keep it in there and you got it ready to go. So I'll continue cleaning this, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Gil. He's got a nice beet salad and some great truffles.
Thanks, Chef Ed. So the recipe here that we have today for our beet salad, really simple, nice kind of Italian take. I've been kind of inspired by a lot of Italian food lately, so beets are in season, so I thought, why not make a nice salad that's not just greens or something like that. And kale's kind of boring for me, so most importantly, I'm going to show you the technique that I like to use to roast these beets, and then you can adapt that to however you like them. And I'll tell you what else is kind of on there after I kind of show you this technique here. So we just have our beets here. If you can find multicolored beets, I really like using them. They look really pretty, as you can see here, a lot of color contrast. They don't taste any different than any other beet, but they do bleed onto the other ones. That's why I have these separate here. So I have the yellow separate from the red. That way they don't turn into a kind of an orangish color.
Now, it looks like you peeled those, right? Did you?
I peeled these beforehand. You are also welcome to throw them in just washed and cleaned, and then take a dishcloth and just kind of peel off that skin once they're cooked. Cool. That makes a nicer, kind of glossier finish to it. But if you don't want to do that, you can also peel them beforehand, and I like to peel them on a little bit of parchment paper. That way you don't make a mess or stain your cutting board.
So day ahead, that's something you could do this ahead
Exactly.
of the big day,
Exactly.
Right?
I love doing this roasted, and then I'll chill them out and serve them the next day.
And another good thing that I found, if you peel them ahead of time, if you don't peel them ahead of time, if that skin is not coming off, you probably need to cook it a little bit longer and stick it on there.
That's a great point.
If you do leave the skin on and you leave them whole, they're going to roast a little bit longer, and you're going to have to peel some of that off.
Good point.
Sorry.
So all I have here is my beets, a few sprigs of thyme, and then I'm going to hit it with a little bit of kosher salt right over the top. And this is a red wine vinegar just to go along with the same color. And then we're also going to do a little bit of olive oil.
So red wine vinegar, a little
With the
bit
red.
in some nice.
And then I like to do a two-step process that I wrap first in this commercial grade plastic wrap.
Do I have to worry about plastic melting at the temperature you're doing these?
At this temperature, you'll notice that it's going to shrink to it, and it's going to make a really nice seal onto this.
Awesome.
But if you don't have any like commercial grade plastic wrap, and you just have like a press and seal or something like that, that's not going to withstand that
That may
temperature.
melt. Okay. Good
So
point.
you can always just use foil if you don't have commercial grade plastic wrap. That's correct, right?
That's right. And then so for my yellow beets, I'm just using a little apple cider vinegar instead. You could also use white wine vinegar, or champagne vinegar would also be really great in here. But again, I don't want to do something like a balsamic or red wine vinegar that's going to change this color of the beet.
What's the importance of that vinegar in that dish, Chef Gil?
This really helps balance out that nice natural sugars that are built into that. And so it's a good sweet and sour play on it.
Beautiful. And you didn't really toss them in it. You just kind of drizzled it
No,
in
I
the
like to
dish.
do that, and they'll steam themselves in there, which is really nice. You can also throw some shallot, other aromatics, depending on what you want.
Sure.
But then I really like to make sure my edge is crimped, both sides, and we'll throw that in. Generally, these at about an inch cut take about 45 minutes to an hour. And again, I like to check that with either a fork, or if you get one of these handy cake testers, make sure it goes through nice and
Bamboo
clean.
skewer if you don't have that.
Exactly.
You're just trying to get tenderness, right?
Correct. And something unique here today is we're actually using the 18-inch oven in our dual fuel here. A lot of people ask all the time, you know, well, what would I use that oven for? And this is really great for sides or something like that, that you don't want to take up that big main oven for your
You
bird
got other stuff.
or something. So it's a really great use, especially with the dual fuel. You can do multi-rack cooking. So I have this set on convection.
Convection, interesting. Even though the food's covered, convection's the right
Exactly.
thing. Oh, I want
That
nice
way
and
you can
even.
get both sides as opposed to the heat only coming from the bottom.
Ooh.
So just gonna throw that in there.
And that aluminum foil kind of protects that
plastic. a little bit,
plastic
yeah.
wrap as well. It holds
Exactly.
in that moisture. When you're steaming those beets, it really gets them done a little bit quicker and helps that time out.
So now we're gonna talk about what else was with that. In this bowl here, I just have a little bit of whipped ricotta in there. That's all a part of that recipe that's in that link. Really easy, just a little heavy cream, nice ricotta, a little pinch of salt, whisk it together. I like to lay all my beets on there and then take a nice balsamic and just drizzle it all over, a little bit of olive oil. And then there's also some beet greens. So if you get the greens that go along with your beets, I love to save that, and just kind of gives another color and texture to your salad. And it's finished off with a nice dukkha on top, which is an Egyptian style, Mediterranean style, nutty spice blend. So it gives us a lot of texture and flavor.
What I like about it is you've layered that beet flavor. You have the greens that are the fresh beet flavor. You have the roasted beets with that flavor, and then you've got a little crunch from the stems.
And it's crazy how many people just cut those off and throw them
toss
away.
them,
And
yep.
the whole part is edible. It's great to eat.
Exactly. So the next thing we're making here is our pumpkin truffles. So this is everything that you would put in a pumpkin pie, but in truffle form, which is really great because then you don't need to worry about baking a whole pie, and you can have individual portions for everybody. And some of the ingredients we have here is a little cream cheese, pumpkin puree, graham cracker crumbs. Chef, would you mind giving me a little stir on my white chocolate?
Absolutely.
White chocolate. And I don't like to use the simmer function on my white chocolate just because it goes so quickly it can seize up. That's exactly
mostly because of what's in white chocolate.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then so I have that, a little bit of sugar, a couple tablespoons, salt most importantly, helps balance out all the sweetness in here.
Whenever you see salt in a dessert recipe, do not omit it. It is the thing that brings all your other flavors to the point. It's just an amazing addition.
And lastly, a little pumpkin pie spice and some ground ginger. What's really nice about this recipe is it just comes together super quickly. I like to do everything first, and then you'll see it slowly come together homogeneously, and then I'll mix in that white chocolate. So it'll start out very dry at first.
Now you said that your crumbs are all graham cracker crumbs.
These are all graham cracker
If you
crumbs.
needed to go gluten-free,
You could absolutely substitute some gluten-free graham cracker crumbs. I've done that personally for my family. Same ratios, don't need to change out anything.
right. It just works the
Works
same way.
great.
So don't leave them out.
Exactly. And what's really nice too is while this is all going, I have my semi-sweet chocolate chips in here going on our simmer feature on our burners, which allows me to have started this at 1 o'clock today. So this has been going for 2 whole hours. And what's nice is I know once it's time to fill or coat these truffles that
It's going to be nice.
it's going to be nice and melted.
You
That
don't-
way I
you're
don't need
not-
to wait.
Yeah, you don't have to wait. You don't have to put it in a microwave. You throw that on there. It takes about 30, 45 minutes. Really, you could put it on there 2 hours in advance, though. I've had it sitting on that small burner all day long, and just people are amazed that you could come up here and it won't burn. So it really works
Double
great.
boiler needed. Yeah, it's a great feature.
Look at this. See, it really starts coming together all of a sudden. And what you're going to want to do once this is all together is place this into the fridge to chill for at least 30 minutes. You can do longer. And that's just so that everything hydrates and comes together. And once that's done, you just take this, and I like to take an ice cream scoop or a portion scoop and just scoop them out and ball them up. You can also use a spoon if you need for that, but they'll be a little less consistent. So once you do that, it's really important to make sure they're nice and cold in this ball shape, just like this. So I like
You
to
have to
stick them
put
in the freezer.
In the freezer, yeah.
Exactly. And so these have been in for a couple hours now, but minimum, I'd say 30 minutes, just so that this doesn't start to melt into your chocolate.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I like to do it set up just like this, as close as I can to where I'm going to drop them. As you can see right here, they look like chocolate chips, but it's actually melted chocolate.
That's the magic right there.
Look
No
at
double
that.
boiler. Just
No double boilers, directly on the heat.
And now they do got to make sure they're on that simmer feature on that small burner, and it'll sit all day long.
And so I just take these cold balls right here, toss them around, and I just make sure there's no excess. Right onto either a silicone mat or piece of parchment. Coat it. And then I'll drop it right on there. And I
How
really
important
like to
is-
finish with either more pumpkin pie spice or a little pinch of cinnamon. Just
How important is the chocolate quality for this dish?
I really like to use high quality chocolate because this is a chocolate driven dish.
That's the point. If it's got
It's the
chocolate in the
main
title,
element in
yeah,
this.
don't skimp on the chocolate.
So I'll finish up doing these guys, and I'd love to hand it off to Chef Mike to talk about his sides.
Thanks, Gil. So growing up, the vegetable that I always never wanted to find on the table was Brussels sprouts. I thought, there's got to be something. But what I learned is with enough other influences, Brussels sprouts can be an amazing dish. Usually bacon, balsamic cheese, those kind of things really bring Brussels sprouts. What I'm going to show you today is a method. In fact, you had a Brussels sprout recipe last year that was all on the griddle.
Correct. I had one on the griddle that had a little
Bacon jam.
in
Yeah.
there.
But I'm going to use just Brussels sprouts. And I would tell you when you're doing this, if your Brussels sprouts are huge, you might want to quarter them. If they're small, half is fine. But I do like to have a cut surface on these. I want that cut edge on there to be able to get a nice toasted, roasted piece. So I'm going to take a little bit of the olive oil when you get a sense there, Chef.
Now
Gil?
with these, I didn't hear if you said, do you cut the bottoms off or?
I do trim that little dark bottom off.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of its travel container.
Yeah.
I don't want that on there. But I trim that bottom off. If you lose a few leaves, no problem. Because here's the deal. You're going to roast them. Those will be your Brussels sprout chips, right?
Nice
As they
and
come off
crispy
that, they're
pieces, kind of like
beautiful.
the cheese was. You'll have crispy pieces in
So
your.
to this, I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. So we'll put a little salt and pepper in there. I think Brussels sprouts is a vegetable that really needs the salt to get all of its, all the flavors that can come from it out. You need that piece. Put a little cracked fresh black pepper. And then we'll give these a quick toss. Now I'm using a perforated pan from our Wolf convection steam oven. Now I like the perforated pan, of course, because I'm going to use a mode of convection steam. And what's going to happen is the box is going to fill up with steam, and then it's going to steam them so they have a green tender center and still use high heat to toast the outside. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but using convection steam, harnessing the power of both convection and moist heat really makes this dish shine. So I'm going to toss these, and then I'm just going to add them to this. Now, you do need to spray this with some nonstick spray, and a little trick I learned after a couple of times is put something on your counter underneath before you spray the perforated pan.
Yeah, especially if you don't have your salad pan. I mean, it's Thanksgiving.
It is.
You're using that salad pan
And
other
that's
ways.
why I didn't show it. You're right.
He's got a little bit of parchment under there. You could put your salad pan underneath, but you might be using that. A little parchment works great.
But it just keeps that spray from off your counter, because then you'll set something down and it will disappear on you. All right, on top of this, I'm going to add just a little bit of thinly sliced shallot. Now, I chose shallot because it's going to cook in about the same time. Onions, depending on how thin you cut them, might not caramelize as quickly. I want that little bit of caramels. And shallots are the ones that are a little sweeter naturally, so they really add. And I'm just, if you want to use a mandolin, do so. Be careful. It's Thanksgiving. You don't want to show up with both fingers cut. But you can also just cut them thinly. I do think it's important to have them all about the same thickness. That's the biggest thing when it comes to cutting vegetables.
You don't want
same
one
size.
burnt and one not done yet.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
too thin. Also, those shallots add a little bit of that garlicky flavor as well.
Yep, they pick
that
up that-
onion really doesn't pick up on. So it's going to give it, bacon, that garlic. It's great.
And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the bacon, right? You got to bring the bacon.
Got to bring
So
the bacon.
I like to use a thicker sliced bacon. I consider myself a bacon snob. So I like really small production, great tasting bacon. If you want some recommendations, I'm sure there are recommendations in every single market for great bacon. But I don't,
What's your favorite bacon that you like to use?
I really am a fan of Newski's bacon. I don't like to pimp any particular thing, but if you have a smokehouse next to you or a butcher next to you, ask them for their thick sliced bacon, because in this dish, what I'm after is that bacon slowly rendering its fat, coating that Brussels sprout. So when you get it on your plate, it tastes like bacon coated Brussels sprout and not just some a vegetable version. So this has not been cooked. It's just on top of here. It will cook in the time that we have in the oven for these. And because we want to get to your questions and make sure we address all of them, this would go straight in the steam oven on convection steam, right? We're going to use the steam and the roast. But because we got time that's important, I'm going to hand this off to Chef Ed. And then I'm going to pull one out that I put in just before class started. I want to show you how this beautiful,
Oh, wow, look at that.
look at the color on that. That was on steam. We got
And that bacon is crispy. Is
bacon
really
is
interesting.
crispy. The shallots are turned into this nice little caramelized crunch element. Really did what they were supposed to do.
They almost look like they're deep fried. Like
They
how
almost look
crispy
it.
they got.
Now, if you like them a little less than this, then just back off the time. The time's in the recipe, but I would also say if you have bigger Brussels sprouts, you may have to adjust that time up. These are all kind of right in the middle. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to platter them right here. Sorry for the loud noise. Yeah, the pan's hot, buddy.
Yep.
Right. Now on top of this, I'm going to add a little bit of a balsamic glaze. I referenced it in the recipe. You can buy this in your grocery store these days. You can also make it yourself. You don't have to have a tremendous amount of balsamic. It's balsamic, about a half a cup and a couple tablespoons of brown sugar.
Yep.
On your simmer feature for 40 minutes or so, and you'll get this nice syrup thickened. So what we're going to do is we're just going to...
It does take a little time, though. If you try to do that real quick, it's going to get bitter on you real fast.
You don't want the
You want to
bitterness. Great
slowly
point.
reduce that down. You don't want to have it at a real hard boil.
And you can use that on a bunch of other stuff too. So
That's why I put it in a squirt bottle, because it can be used drizzled on your salad.
exactly.
Bruschetta, anything really. It's really, can use it for just about
I think balsamic
anything.
glaze has become one of the almost essentials along with your other vinegars. I like to have a little glaze in my... And then I'm going to take just a microplane and some Parmesan cheese. And we're going to top this with a little pop of cheese. Don't really care if that cheese melts, but what I'm looking for is that contrast, right?
And I know you seasoned it ahead of time, but I saw you didn't put a whole lot of salt. Is there a
Did not.
reason for that?
Well, that bacon is going to render its fat that's loaded
Right.
with salt.
Got
I've got
saltiness
Parmesan
there.
cheese on top as well.
Real salty cheese.
So I want to kind of balance that, what's going on with the Brussels sprouts there, okay? Now, what I want to do, we'll land this out here, and let's talk about these pumpkin souffles. This is one of my favorite desserts at Thanksgiving. My wife is gluten intolerant, so I had to come up with a way to get pumpkin pie-esque desserts on the table, and I couldn't do it with traditional crust. Now there's tons of crust out there, right?
While you were baking that, this whole area smelled great. It was,
One of my favorites.
we were all getting hungry.
Now, the recipe as written can be done in souffles, or you can do it and just put it in a pie crust. The recipe
nice.
quantity works the same. It is one of my favorites because it's not just what you expect. Yes, there's a can of pumpkin puree. Yes, there is a little orange juice, a little fresh squeezed orange juice, a little bit of cream, a couple eggs, like everything you would expect in a pumpkin pie. What's not what you might expect is the spice blend. There's a lot of products out there for pumpkin pie, but I like to make my own blend. And this is a blend of both cinnamon, the big part, and then it has mace, ginger, allspice, cloves, this beautiful nutmeg, all of these together, not in high quantity, but what separates this particular dish. The last thing that's in there, and it's totally up to you, tablespoon of maple syrup, tablespoon of molasses. The last thing is it does have a tablespoon of 3 kinds of booze. I do put an alteration in there. If you're not cooking with alcohol, there's a very straightforward and simple substitution, but it's got a tablespoon of dark rum, a tablespoon of cognac, a tablespoon of Grand Marnier. And those 3 together with all that pumpkin flavor, what you're going to get is something that doesn't taste like your normal pumpkin pie.
It didn't taste anything like a lot of booze either. It's not booze forward.
That was the thing. I had
It
them.
works great.
Yeah, I had them smell it so they don't know what that booze is. Now, the last thing about this is the mode. What's the mode in the steam oven that's going to give you this dish and protect the custard, right? Because this is almost a custard. It's not quite a creme brulee custard, but very similar. The mode is convection humid. If you're not familiar with that mode from Use and Care, back up and take a look at that. That's when the oven protects the moisture in what you're cooking. It doesn't actually add any moisture, but it doesn't let any out. So you'll perfectly set this custard and not have to worry about it being dry in the center.
So
That's all you have to do.
you might see a little bit of steam come out when you open it, just a little bit. But that's all moisture coming out of your food. It's a great mode to use
Nothing
for stuff
added
like
to
that. No added
Nothing added to it.
moisture.
I like it with a little whipped cream. You had an idea the other day. What did you say? Some
Oh, I wanted some graham cracker ice cream. with
graham
it.
cracker ice cream, which is now it doesn't have a texture
Salted
on it.
caramel.
So, I mean, you go anywhere.
Any number of things.
Also, something you can do before the big day. There's nothing magic about these being warm, but unlike pumpkin pie, You can do this warm because it's not going to fail on the plate. You just get
You don't have to worry about cutting it. You don't have to scoop it
Now,
out.
if you don't have a whole bunch of ramekins and you're doing a large party, those little foil cups work just fine. I've done them in those interchangeably. Doesn't change the recipe at all. Wolf convection steam oven, convection human. All right, guys. I think we have served up everything we've got here. It's a great time. If you've got a question going, somebody is going to read them to us, and we'll make sure you know what the question was, and then we will give you our best answers. Okay.
So the first question is, what is the best way to prepare chestnuts in the Wolf convection steam oven?
Nice. So chestnuts, if you're doing a chestnut stuffing, I think the best mode for that is I do like them roasted. I like that roasted piece, but I think they would benefit from a little bit of steam first. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that convection steam mode, similar to what I used on the Brussels sprouts. I have to be perfectly honest with you. I have not roasted them in there, but that convection steam mode, and I would use a high temperature. One of the things whenever you're using convection steam is don't forget the temperature. If you want color, you have to have a high temperature, even if it's adding steam in there. One more reminder, on that mode, you can toggle the steam off. It's one of the few modes you can control that steam, and if it doesn't have enough color for you, do that. But for chestnuts, great question, convection steam.
And the way you'll toggle that steam, if you have the touch screen version, if you go to options, you'll have you can turn the steam off or on that convection steam. If you have the touch pad, if you've got the buttons on there that are etched in, you will see a little steam with a check mark above it. If you go to that, it'll turn that off as well.
That's the one mode you can control that steam on and off. Great question.
What is the temperature of the potatoes?
So for the potatoes, the Wolf Griddle, if you are going to, what I did here was I lined them up and I had the griddle turned off because I had them sitting there for a while and then I cranked them up. But if you were just going to come up to your griddle and start it right away, I would go ahead and start that off at a nice high temperature. I'm talking 375, 400 degrees. Get those nice and crispy.
You want the crispiness, and it's a big, thick item, so you want that crispy.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on, I had a thicker potato. If you got a thinner potato, you might want to go a little bit higher because it'll crisp and get the middle of it warm again quicker. Now, if you got a thicker potato like I had, you want to go a little bit lower to that 375 area because it needs to get the middle of the potato warm still. Because I did cook those off ahead of time, cooled them down, and then smashed them. So if you got a smaller, thinner potato, higher temperature 400. If it's a bit thicker, 375.
Another cook ahead item. You can do that part of the prep the day ahead. Kind of lighten your load on Thanksgiving Day.
Could you substitute the white chocolate with another ingredient?
So the question was, can you substitute the white chocolate in these truffles for another chocolate? I have done so in the inverse. So I've actually done the semi-sweet chocolate on the inside, or dark chocolate. I've also tried on the inside with a white chocolate outside. You could also do another one with that. But what I like about the white chocolate on the inside is that it retains the color and look of a pumpkin pie, much like this kind of orangish brownish color that you're used to seeing. So I like it for the appearance of it, but you're definitely welcome to use whichever chocolate that you like, or especially if you like a good dark chocolate. So that's a great question.
Beautiful.
If you have a Wolf gas oven and not a Wolf convection steam oven, do you have a recommendation for baking the souffles?
Yes, there is. You just, in a traditional oven, you would set that on 350. In your Wolf all gas oven, I would definitely put them in the center of the oven only. You can set that to 350 degrees. And there's a slight timing adjustment. You just want to bake them till they're set. That's it. But you can absolutely do it both in your gas oven and you can do it in any of our wall ovens. Good question.
What are some of your other favorite sides and desserts to make?
What are some of our other favorite sides and desserts to make? I think I'll start this off and maybe we could just do a round and everybody kind of say one that they like. Some of my other favorites for Thanksgiving, I'd have to go with like some green bean casserole. You can make, your own little mushroom sauce with a little bit of marsala, a little bit of mushrooms, cream, cheese.
Nice.
Mix all that up in your green beans with some nice crispy onions. Also, for dessert, I mean, I love making pies as well. If you can make, apple pie and really pumpkin pie, you take that filling that he had with the souffles, you put that right into a pie crust, like he was saying, and you can make a pumpkin pie out of it. So those couple that I like to do. If you want to.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things is actually sweet potatoes. They're super versatile in both savory and sweet applications. So in a savory application, I really like doing a slow roasted sweet potato, really slow in the skin at like 300 degrees.
Nice.
And I'll peel that back after they've cooled in the fridge for several hours. And then you're left with this nice, still whole and slightly firm potato that I don't cook it all the way to mush. So I like a little bit of texture still, and I love turning that into, either a hash or a chilled sweet potato salad. Works really great. And cooking at that low temperature, it retains a lot of natural sweetness, so you don't even need to add something sweet to it like marshmallows or something.
Yeah.
On the sweet end, I love sweet potato pie.
I was going to say, that makes a great pie, too.
So, Mike, what about you?
Okay, a couple of things. I wouldn't be representing myself if I didn't talk about pecan pie. Why would you not do a pecan pie or pecan tartlet? Is really that natural fit in here. On the savory side, and you have this in one of the links, is I do a cranberry ginger relish. And I can't deal with the shaky cranberry sauce. It's just not my favorite. Some people grew up with that, and that's what they like. For me, I have a cranberry ginger with a little bit of fresh mint relish that's in that link. Absolutely my favorite because it works both as a condiment on Thanksgiving Day, in your mayo on the day after for your turkey sandwich, and whatever residual liquid makes a great cocktail.
Yep, take that liquid out to make that cocktail. Use that leftover relish right in your.
I heard you
right in
say
your
that.
bread.
That would be a great fit there.
I tried that last year.
You'd
the
add
relish
ginger
that you
to that.
made.
Oh, yeah.
And you could put that right in there instead of cranberries.
Turns it a little red, as you said.
It's going to turn it a little
But
red.
that ginger's going to pop. Oh, what a great,
gonna be great.
great addition.
Is the Wolf convection steam oven the best for roasted beets?
For the question that we have here, is the Wolf convection steam oven the best for beets? I have tested my method in the convection steam oven uncovered on convection steam.
That would be the big change. It's uncovered.
Uncovered is the big thing. I still kind of like to cover my beets overall. You can do it uncovered, but I like it because it keeps a little more of the natural glossiness if you have it covered. And so the look of it won't be as shiny, and it'll be a little more matte color or opaque than what we have here, which is a little glossier and smoother.
And a good thing to notice is you don't have to use that 18-inch oven. That recipe that he's given you, you can use that right
Any
on
oven we have.
convection, in a steam oven, in a gas oven. Any of those ovens are going to work great because he has it sealed with that plastic wrap and the aluminum foil to hold all that steam in to help build that flavor.
Absolutely.
But I'd say you're definitely welcome to do it in the convection steam oven.
Sure.
Give that a try. Convection steam, same temperature.
You are mimicking what happened in your covered piece.
I would even maybe drop it a little bit just to be on the safe side.
If you have a Wolf convection steam oven and a regular Wolf oven, what Thanksgiving foods would you prioritize cooking in the steam oven?
The question is, if you have both a Wolf convection steam oven and a Wolf electric oven, first I just say thank you. Thank you for filling out your kitchen with this great suite of appliances. For me, a few things that I think really benefit in the steam oven. I love doing mashed potatoes where I steam them as opposed to boil them. Here's the difference. What you're going to end up with is a drier potato, and a drier potato is going to do what?
Soak up more of that flavor.
Yeah, man.
Cream
Your
and
cream and
butter.
butter. So you can do those. I like the Brussels sprouts. I prefer those roasted vegetables in the steam oven. Depending on how many you're cooking for, if you want to do your bird in there, size is important there. Wolf will tell you can do a little bit bigger size. I like it in around the 16, 17, 18 pound range. Above that, I think it gets a little bit tight. So often if I'm doing a full bird and it's bigger than that, I go to the big oven. If I'm doing turkey breasts, because that's what the size fits my group. I love doing those in the convection steam oven. Everything can work in either oven because your Wolf convection steam oven is just a convection oven. If you have dishes that need to be covered in slow bake, I think that always is a better fit in the big oven. It's just, now if things happen, life happens, nobody's here, they were supposed to be here 45 minutes ago, every one of your Wolf ovens converts to a warming drawer with the exception of the all gas range. So you can hold those things quality-wise and not worry about things cooling off.
So what I like to do is I'll take that steam oven, I'll steam off my potatoes, get my mashed potatoes made, then I'll go ahead and throw in my turkey. Those mashed potatoes are going to hold in your warming drawer for a couple hours. And even if it starts to look like there's some grease or butter seeping out of the potato, you just mix it up a little bit and it'll come right back to it. Mashed potatoes are real easy to hold, and they hold that dense temperature there for a long period of time. So
awesome. All right. This wraps up our questions. Thank you so much for spending time with me and Ed and Gil, and we love having you in this culinary scene. Make sure those links, let me review them again for you. The first link is going to be the recipe for the things we did in front of you and some things that round out the Thanksgiving table. The second link is going to be where you can sign up for the turkey session tomorrow. And then that last link is the enrollment form to enroll as a new owner. Once you own, we offer this culinary scene experience to you exclusively where you can curtail your exact appliances. It's a simple form, a little bit of contact information, you upload your invoice, and then you can start enjoying all of the content that we do from here, both in live sessions as well as numerous use and care videos to help you understand how to get the most out of your wonderful suite of appliances. Thanks for watching. Come back to the culinary scene often for inspiration, recipes, and use and care tips. Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.